It's been a while since we've done one of these, so the craving's off the roof. These are recipes that I randomly came across on the internet and thought it might be helpful to test them out together to level up our instant ramen game. All of our recipes today will come from the big three: Indomie, Shin Ramen, Fire Noodle, and some other things. How do you know a bowl of ramen's good? The sprinkle of scallion on top. Before we make any recipe, we gotta chop a lot of it. It's like when God made humans from dirt and completed it with the soul. That's what that sprinkle of scallion is to a bowl of ramen. You already know the video gonna be good when you're starting with thick bacon straight into the cold pan with a little bit of water to prevent the splattering. The water also mellows out the rendering process, helping the fat to extract better. Once it's looking like 80% of the fat is out, we'll take it out. And with the grease in the pan, we'll fry up 2 eggs, sunny side up. With the eggs out, you already know what's coming. We're taking out a pack of Indomie. 2 packs actually. We're gonna put all the seasoning into a bowl except for the packaged fat because we're replacing it with the bacon fat that's left in the pan. We'll just do a little bit. Toss in your cooked noodles, mix it together to provide a canvas for a massive amount of toppings about to show up. A lot of scallion, bacon from earlier, 2 eggs because I'm a baller like that, and some of these fried up sausage. You know, whenever I see a ramen recipe online, they always just say like put sausage in it. Like I have no idea what kind of sausage you're talking about, like spicy Italian or German bratwurst. And then you look at the picture, it's always some reddish thing like this. And then I realized the thing that mostly resemble these quote-unquote sausage is actually beef franks or any hot dog you have, which makes a lot of sense. I guess we're still in the struggle meal realm, so glizzies are accompanied here. Well, it's not the case for me because no matter I'm eating a struggle meal or a fancy meal, I need that sausage in me, bro. We'll top it off with a packaged crispy shallot, and it's time to dig in here. We're working with a lot of topping right now, and the best way to approach it is to poke the runny yolk. I guess it's not really runny. And we'll use the egg to grab the rest of the toppings and some noodles, turning it into an extremely complete and satisfying bite. And we'll give it a taste and rate 1 through 10. With the amount of bacon and bacon grease in here, you might be concerned for your arteries, but not to worry. I heard an intense dopamine release can revive your health, which is what we're getting here. The Indomie is already really good, and we have the crispiness from the bacon. The pile of scallion just gives us that fresh herbaceousness. And the replacement of the fat kind of imposes a new flavor profile to it. I'm gonna give it a 9.3 out of 10. That was a pretty strong start. This next one, I feel like a lot of the other creators already showed it to you guys. I just find it to be very mind-blowing that an egg yolk and agavisa mayo can make a water-based broth to taste like there's meat in it. The key is to whisk it gradually with a lick fork, of course, while adding boiling liquid to it. So it's gonna cook the egg yolk and like make the broth kind of thick. You see, I should have mixed everything into a paste before adding the water. Also, my water is probably not hot enough. There's like stuff floating on top, like a bunch of bugs laid eggs on it, but it shouldn't affect the taste. Imitating a proper tonkatsu broth, giving it its soul and giving it the sausage, and it doesn't taste as good as I remembered it to be. I might have put in too much mayo because it tastes straight up like a bad noodle salad. Regardless, it still has that rich broth feel to it, but I'm gonna have to give this one a 7 out of 10. Everybody loves chili oil eggs, but did you know if you boil fried eggs, it actually tastes like chicken stock? With the help from our homemade chili oil, this is gonna take our spicy broth ramen to the next level. We're gonna use Shin Ramen for this. When the water comes to a boil, we're dropping the patty, some of that sausage, and the seasoning packet, and just cook it like how you normally would. It is supposed to have a broth, so add some more water if you feel like it's getting too salty. The toppings for this recipe are kimchi and tofu. I suppose this is trying to imitate the kimchi stew. Again, guys, whenever I have eggs on top of the noodle, we gotta use it to grab it. Honestly, this broth, just with the fried egg, tastes better than the mayo thing we had earlier. With the addition of chili oil, it adds a lot of complexity to the Shin Ramen seasoning packet. This might just be what the creator of the Shin Ramen intended it to taste like. And the toppings are just right. I'm gonna give it a 9 out of 10. So far, a lot of great recipes today. Now, speaking of Shin Ramen, we can't forget probably the most viral one on the internet, the chili oil recipe. To a bowl, we'll add scallion, chopped garlic, half packet of the seasoning, a teaspoon each of soy sauce and Chinese black vinegar, and a teaspoon of sugar. I'm replacing with maple syrup. My family doesn't own a maple farm or anything. I use it because I don't eat pancakes and there's nowhere else to use it. Since we're on the topic of pancakes, my roommate eats that sometimes in the morning, which I think is a really sad thing to do. I've never seen pancakes served in a non-family or community gathering setting, so waking up early and making pancake for himself feels a little psychopathic. Why don't you just start the day with 2 shots of vodka in your green smoothie like a regular person? Literally nothing bad about this recipe, depth of savory flavor with a hint of acidity and sweetness. As we all know, fat is flavor. You know what else is flavor? MSG in the ramen packet. Doubly flavorful and super simple, so 9.5 out of 10. Let me tell you a secret, if I wasn't filming a video, I wouldn't have bothered removing the skin. But sometimes in life, we just gotta pull the skin back to have fun. And I also feel like whenever I use canned tomato to make a broth, the result is always more acidic than I expect. Fresh tomatoes have more of that balance of sweetness that makes the broth taste good. And before we move on to the stove to cook it down, we're gonna crack in 2 eggs, beat it up with the lick fork of course. And this oil sprinkler thing has been my most useful kitchen gadget of the year. I asked for kitchen gadget recommendations last time and the submission form is still available in the description. When the tomatoes become invisibly mushy, we'll add in the noodle water, turn it into a broth and put all the seasoning packet into it. We don't want to overcook the patty, we just want to kind of spread it out and start dropping in our eggs. In a circular motion, we'll drop in the egg in the tiniest stream. This should be extremely easy for you. The eggs should be cooked within like a minute or so. We'll stir in a piece of cheese, give that salt, and our tomato egg drop soup shin ramen is ready to taste. I feel like with shin ramen, a lot of people go with the route of mayo or like cream cheese and stuff, and that leads to a lot of intense, rich flavor, and I feel like going with the tomato broth is the opposite of that. And with the egg drop, everything's real mellow and very comforting. I'm gonna give it an 8.6, something you can have for a quick lunch or when you're sick. This next one is from the OG of cooking YouTube. With more than 10 years of experience, Manchi probably gives the best and most authentic Korean recipes. I never realized army stew is actually pretty easy. You kind of just like throw everything in a pot and just boil it. So I have onion slices, the root part of the scallion, and a bunch of kimchi. And the recipe called for pork belly. I'm gonna just use these pork shoulder pieces because I feel like it doesn't need to be that fatty. Pork is always tender no matter how you cook it, you know. Now time for the sauce. This gochujang box has been in my fridge for like 2 years. I don't use it because I don't like Korean food that much, I'm sorry. It's just a little too sweet. That's a tablespoon of gochugaru, a tablespoon of soy sauce, sugar, I'm using maple syrup of course, and a teaspoon of sesame oil. This is what's gonna carry on that flavor front. We'll pour it directly on top of all the ingredients, no need to mix yet. Fill it with water, lid on, and put on high heat to bring it to a boil. A lot of aromatic vegetables and flavorful ingredients in the pot, they're gonna start breaking down and release its juices and start seasoning each other in a platonic way, of course. When the pot comes to a boil, we'll mix the sauce into the ingredients, put the lid back on, heat to low, and simmer for 30 minutes. In the last 5 minutes, we'll put in some tofu. Right when we take it off the stove, when the water is still boiling hot, we'll put in a raw noodle patty just to stuff on the bottom. The residual heat is gonna cook it really well. If we simmered it, it's gonna be too soggy. This seems like a convoluted way just to eat ramen, but it's actually a lot easier than I expected. You just like chop some vegetables, throw it into a pot, and like cover with sauce and stuff. It does take a long time just to stew everything, but I assume you can make a lot and just eat it throughout the week. Considering the minimal effort, I'm gonna give it an 8 out of 10. If you feel like that stew was too lazy, maybe we can try something more active. Taking to the streets of Indonesia, we're gonna do an Indomie stir fry. Larger bok choy will quarter it, and the smaller one will just half it. To make it easier later, we're gonna put all the seasoning packet into a ramekin, add sake and soy sauce, and mix it together into like a stir fry sauce. And obviously we're going to be using a wok, this fake hex clout wok that we got together from the Chinatown vlog. The quality is so nice. I honestly feel like somebody stole this from a real hex clout factory, smuggled it over, and just sold it to me for a quarter of the price. Without washing the pan, in goes 2 tablespoons of my bucket of duck fat. While smoking hot, we're gonna drop in our vegetables. I'm also gonna do some bean sprouts. I used to hate bean sprouts, and putting it in a noodle dish is like pouring Skittles into M&M jar. But recently I find it kind of nice. We'll also put in some type of protein. I have these beef brisket slices. You can do sketchy sausage or chicken, whatever you want. And for the rest of my awesome stir frying, my quote-unquote intelligent camera decided to focus only on this handle instead of my amazing skill. This must be similar to the vision of Conan O'Brien during that one particular interview he did.
The way that I met Simon was they asked me to be a guest judge, Focus, Conan, to be, they asked me.
But anyways, I dropped the sauce, egg, noodle back in, stir fried it for a few minutes on high heat, and it's ready to go out. Giving it its soul. I do wish there can be more color, but it smells amazing, so let's dig in. Is that pink? This is making me emotional because it takes me back to the humble streets of Indonesia. The flavors of Indomie working with the texture of the meat, noodle, and the crunchy vegetables, bringing ultimate comfort. Also, I can taste the duck fat, so that's pretty nice. A little extra effort, but definitely a 9 out of 10. Usually, I need as many toppings on my ramen as possible because I'm greedy like that. Also, I want that complex flavor profile, you know what I'm saying? But what if I tell you one topping can completely change the entire nature of a bowl due to its intense and dominant aroma and texture? What we're imitating here is the Chinese dandan noodle. The sauce is actually just a pile of meat, which is something I can get behind. So after giving some color to your ground meat, we'll like chop it up in the pan like that. And still on high heat, we're gonna season it with spicy bean paste, normal bean paste, you can use miso paste I think, and equal part ketchup. We'll get all this red sauce into the meat, and when it's looking like it's ready to go on top of a lasagna or something, we can take it out. I know I mentioned earlier we only need one topping, but I had meat and vegetables left over, so I boiled into it. I used a random pack of bone broth noodle, just any non-spicy one will work. Then pile on as much as you want of the sauce slash garnish slash topping. And is it my birthday already? Because this bowl is loaded with meat, so let's give it a taste and rate 1 through 10. I wouldn't recommend you mixing it at first because the sauce is really intense and spicy, but the bone broth noodle is rich and mild, so when you eat them together there's sort of an inconsistency going on in your mouth. Again, this is very practical. I feel like you can just straight up in advance make 2 pounds of this ground meat sauce and just take it out and drop it into the noodles whenever you want to level up. I think this deserves a 9.2. I rarely ever put the entire packet of fire noodle sauce into the bowl because I know that I can't handle spice really well, both ends of the spectrum, but the flavor of the sauce is amazing. So the next couple recipes will be focusing on curving the heat of the fire noodle while retaining or maybe even enhance its wonderful flavors. As you can see here, the first one involves caramelized onions and some of that sausage. We'll stir fry everything together to give it some color and add in our barely cooked noodles. The tool that's the most useful in terms of calming down heat is probably dairy products. You'll see it pop up occasionally for the rest of the video. Going in with the entire packet, mix it, let it simmer in the cream for a little bit until it's cooked, then time to give it a taste and rate 1 through 10. Supposedly, caramelized onion is the most powerful ingredient in a dish, but it's going against fire noodle sauce, so it's more of a side character here, offering a hint of sweetness, working together with a heavy cream to calm down the heat and making it taste less one-dimensional. But I have to say that onions and sauce don't complement each other that well, so I'm gonna go with a 6 out of 10, wouldn't have it again. Why are you cooking your noodles like that? Well, it's the same reason why I reuse thumbnails from my old videos. I'm just an incredibly lazy person, and if you're the same way, you're gonna enjoy this recipe because we're just going straight in with a half block of cream cheese, which seems to have the potential to be my answer to everything. When that's simmered into the water, we'll add in the whole packet and a slice of cheddar. They call this the bulldog carbonara. I don't see any resemblance in ingredients, but let's give it a taste. There's no resemblance in flavor either, but the satisfaction is pretty up there with a real carbonara. This is the creamiest so far, obviously because the cream cheese and the taming down of the heat is the most apparent. I think I just discovered my favorite way to have fire noodles. 9.4 out of 10. What is this oily paste with a scary amount of calories on the label? It is our imported tahini from Greece. Sesame seeds are inherently a little bit bitter, so we're gonna add some peanut butter to balance it out. Another whole packet of that spicy sauce. We're basically trying to see if the non-dairy option can outperform the cream cheese block. In goes all the noodles, mix that all up. It looks like the cream cheese one. It smells very Thai. I don't know why I associate the smell of nuts and noodles with Thai cuisine. The required topping for this dish is sliced cucumbers. I guess the crunchy freshness is supposed to counteract the creamy nut. Let's give it a taste. The tahini sauce completely coats the noodles, makes it very creamy and satisfying. If I didn't just have the one with the cream cheese in it, I would be losing my mind right now. This is relatively a little underwhelming, but I'll still give it a 7.5. Our last two are gonna be very interesting. I was randomly scrolling through YouTube shorts and I saw somebody turned fire noodles into takoyaki. I don't feel like making the batter, so I got a premix for 6.9. Nice. And the ratio is basically 6 ounces of water, an egg, and 4 ounces of this mix. It's pretty much a pancake batter. It's gonna seem very thin, but that's how you get that crispy shell and like kind of runny in the middle texture. We'll make a pack of fire noodle as usual. We'll cut it a lot to make the noodles smaller to fit into the ball. Now with my new takoyaki pan I just got for $20, it also came with an oil brush. Look how professional I look. I guess it's basically just a piece of cast iron pan with holes in it. In terms of the batter, we're going to overfill it a little bit because we're trying to make a whole sphere. These are half spheres. And then we'll lay in our noodles. Make sure you evenly space it apart in the middle. And if you have seafood lying around like shrimp and octopus or something, you can put it in too. And with a little poking stick that also came with this purchase, we're going to try to stuff the sides in and turn it into like a complete ball. And in case you haven't been able to tell, I've never made this thing before, but I think I'm slowly getting the hang of it. You kind of just want to slowly poke it into the middle while turning it and fry on all sides. And I also noticed that if the heat is high, it takes shape faster and it talks to you. Listen.
You hear sizzling, I hear my ancestors crying.
I think we're done here. They look like bird brains, which according to my ex, I have, so I respect it. Saucing time is the most exciting time. We'll do a layer of that fire noodle sauce that I got in the bottle. I give a second chance to Kewpie Mayo. I'm hoping that this is what's gonna tame down the spice a little bit, but the batter should be already doing the job. And of course your normal okonomiyaki sauce. Finally the bonito flakes on top to make it look like it's moving. I think I'm ready to open my street cart, guys. What do you think? Well, besides the roof of my mouth no longer existing, this is actually very, very good. It tastes like tiny, crispy, but soft on the inside pancakes with fire noodle flavors. And I didn't know that takoyaki is fairly easy to make. It's pretty much just a waffle that you have to poke a lot. I'm gonna give it a 9 out of 10. This is pretty surprising. You can already tell. The last recipe of the day, we're going to bring back the diabolical Pringle noodle. After getting it as crumbly as you can, we'll put in an equal amount of mozzarella and then pour in boiling noodle water till the halfway point of the container. Give it a mix and put the lid back on. We'll wait for 1.5 minutes. After the chips absorb the water, all we need to do is just to stir really vigorously to combine the cheese and the potato till it's stretchy like that. Ever since we made it last time, it's been on my mind, guys. It haunts me in my dreams. How can something so wrong be so good? When I first saw this on TikTok, I was grossed out. I mean, I never even voluntarily bought a tube of Pringles in my life. Yet here we are, consuming it in probably the least healthy way possible. But the moment the sweet spicy fire noodle covered with cheesy mashed potato hit your mouth, you understand what I mean. I guess it just reminds me of my life philosophy of being here for a fun time, not a long time. I don't want to rate it because I want to make a promise to myself and the rest of you that I'll never make this again. A great bowl of instant noodle never fails to satisfy. If my video made you hungry, why don't you go make one of these recipes? And if my video grossed you out, maybe watch another one? Alright, thank you.